All right, just to confirm for the listeners, who I have on the phone here, it is the man behind Knowledge Magazine, the one and only Colin Stevens. Is it you, sir?
Hi, how are you?
I am doing well, sir. I got to ask, where in the world are you right now?
I'm in London at the moment. Yeah, I've lived in London since 2002. Yeah.
Where are you from originally, then?
Originally, I'm from Glasgow in Scotland. So I moved from Glasgow to Bristol, and that's where I set up Knowledge Magazine. And then, like I say, I moved to London in 2002.
Awesome. I want to dive into that a little bit more, but first I want to get to know you as a person a little. Is that okay?
Of course.
Okay, you being so involved with magazines, I got to ask, what was the first ever magazine you purchased with your own money?
Oh, wow. It must have been a music magazine. It probably would have been something a little bit cheesy, like Smash Hits. It was a magazine kind of quite big in the 80s in the UK, showing my age a little bit. It was pop music, really. Like I was saying, it was anything that was in the charts. So there was kind of cheesy stuff, there was quite cool stuff in it, and yeah, that was probably the first magazine that I bought. Yeah.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. I got to say, the first magazine I remember buying myself was a porno mag. So, kudos to you for having something a little.
we used to find them sort of lying around. I don't think I bought one at that age.
You know what? I'll tell a little funny side story. I actually stood outside a store when I was 13 years old. We call it shoulder tabbing. You know, where you try and get someone to buy you cigarettes or something. But
Yep.
I was trying to get someone to buy me a porno mag, but no one would stop because they all thought I wanted cigarettes. Until I finally just
Yeah.
blurted it out. I just want a fucking porno magazine. And one guy stopped. He's like, which one? And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't know any of the names. So he went in, got us one.
Yeah, just anyone.
Anything. I want to see boobs. But yeah. Okay, moving along. I got to ask you this. Were you ever into comic books as a kid growing up, or even now today?
Yeah. I love comics. Yeah, there was one in particular over here called Roy of the Rovers. It was football, what you guys call soccer. It was all about football. This guy, like I say, he played for this team called Melchester Rovers, and it was all his what he got up to. And there was all these other comics in as well. But yeah, I used to love comics. There was other ones as well. What other ones I used to read? Hotspur. They've kind of gone out of fashion, these comics now, but they were huge in the 70s and the 80s and the UK. They were good. Yeah, I've always loved comics and magazines, printed material.
Well, and I find it interesting, the cultural differences, I guess, because even the cartoons, sometimes when I ask people their favorite cartoon, I don't know them. Like, all I know is Superman, Spider-Man, all the Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
But okay, let me ask you this. If you were a comic book guy, if you could have any superpower in the world, what superpower would you want?
I would say invisibility. Yeah, that'd be cool. Like I say, being invisible, you could just kind of go around and just spy on people, kind of find out what they're saying. Yeah, like I say, you can just go anywhere and listen in. That would be pretty awesome.
I think there's profanity in what people want as their superpower. Like people who choose to fly versus people who want super muscles or super strength versus people who want to be kept in the dark. And I like it. I like it. All right, let's dive into a little bit of industry. I got to ask you, what was your first experience with a rave?
What do you mean? A proper big, massive rave? Because I was going to clubs probably a lot before them, but they were probably smaller, more underground clubs. Which one do you mean?
I want to hear the first smaller underground clubs.
Proper underground clubs. Yeah, okay. I mean, so this was in Glasgow. I must have been about 16 or 17, and I've been kind of, had a lot of friends, and we used to just hang out in the street corner and just drink and stuff. But I was getting a bit bored of that, and one of my friends from school, he was kind of going to quite cool clubs in Glasgow, and I remember kind of saying to him, I wasn't his best friend, but I knew him well, and I was like, you got to take me along, and he took me to this club in Glasgow called Lucifer's at the time. It was actually since now known as a sub club, which is pretty world renowned. And I remember just, being a bit scared, wondered if they're going to let me in. One, I was underage, and two, it was quite quite dressy. You had to kind of look the part, and I was quite nervous and anxious. And then, we kind of got in, and I remember kind of going downstairs, and I was just like, awestruck. It was some really kind of cool people there, and the music was just amazing, in the atmosphere, and I was absolutely hooked since then. That was a great experience, and luckily, not long after that, I actually got a job, probably first ever writing job, for the List magazine in Glasgow. This was like a listings magazine, and this was about 88. I got that job, and I had no writing experience whatsoever. I just wrote a kind of cheeky letter. I just noticed they had an advert in there saying they wanted somebody to do the nightlife section, and I wrote my cheeky letter just saying that I could do it, and just blagged it basically, and so then had access to basically the guest list and all these amazing clubs in Glasgow. So yeah, that was me. Kind of got started and never looked back.
Good for you. It's a very smart networking way to get yourself involved, and then free admission to a lot of parties. What kind of music were we talking? What year are we talking?
Well, I mean, I started off in Glasgow. I was into kind of like indie music. So I used to love bands like Echo and the Bunnymen, the Jesus and Mary Chain, the Smiths, kind of what bands like that. New Order as well. The New Order were an important band because they had that kind of electronic side to it as well. And there was a band called Big Audio Dynamite. It was Mick Jones and the Clash, and he formed that one, and that was kind of punky, kind of electronic as well. And I remember going to see, a gig, and they had Schoolie D, from Philadelphia, the kind of like promo kind of gangster rap.
Yeah.
And, he had about 7 support acts, and they had Schoolie D on, and that's really started discovering hip hop. And that's when I started want to go to clubs, because at that time we played a lot of, this is 87, they were playing a lot of like hip hop and rare groove. That was the kind of stuff they were playing in kind of Glasgow at the time. Glasgow actually has got a very sophisticated club scene. I didn't realise that until kind of I left, and at that time they were playing that, and then kind of acid house started to kind of come into things. Slowly you kind of have a bit of acid house, and then before you knew it, it was just like the whole night it was just acid house. Just playing house music all night. So it's amazing how quickly it just transformed.
I got to ask you this, because something I think that's been lost over the years is sound system. And when I say that, I mean we've gotten bigger, but have we really gotten better? And do people really appreciate what a sound system once was? Do you get what I'm saying when I say that?
What do you mean, the actual kind of the quality of the sound in the club, or?
Not just the quality of the sound in the club, but the people working the machines. Like, in my opinion, from the stories I've heard from people, there used to be almost a battle amongst people who had their sound system, almost like people would race cars. You battle your sound systems.
Yeah, I suppose I didn't really kind of encounter that kind of more till I went to Bristol, when they had again they got more of a kind of that traditional kind of West Indian kind of background, like St Paul's Carnival and all kind of like the sound system culture there. You didn't really kind of have that in Glasgow so much, but yeah, when I kind of got to Bristol, I soon encountered that, and like I say again, the jungle scene is very much kind of drawn from those traditions.
Definitely, and I think gentrification has been a big topic people have talked about. You brought up the West Indie culture. It's interesting that you, a person who came from Scotland, didn't experience it until you got, I guess, entrenched into that sense of culture. Is that right in saying?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
All right, sorry, I got to pull my questions up here. You know what, let's get into some Knowledge Mag. Okay, you're the man behind Knowledge Magazine. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I co-founded Knowledge with Rachel Patey in 1994. Yeah.
What was the mission statement when you guys started the magazine?
Do you know what? We didn't have we weren't really that ambitious. What it was at that time, we used to we're running a club called Roughneck Ting. We'd been running that for about a year. We used to go down to London, and I remember coming out of AWOL with the Paradise Club, and they had this little magazine that was called Atmosphere. And again, at the time, there really wasn't very much of a scene in Bristol. It was very, very small, and even and the media as well. There wasn't. There was a lot of magazines like Kmag, DJ, but they were just writing about house music. They were kind of a little bit snobbish about jungle drum and bass. They hardly covered it. It just seemed like no token coverage. So, in this Atmosphere magazine, it was just all about drum and bass. And it was jungle, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And like I said, I used to write to the list, so I had a bit of a background in writing. One of the guys in our crew, we were in the club, we worked at a printer. Rachel, like I say, she had sold kind of insurance and got a bit of a kind of sales background, so I was just thinking, we could like do a magazine, we could kind of just do it ourselves. And I had this little Apple Mac Classic, it was 4 megabytes RAM, 40 megabytes hard drive, like all in one. That's absolutely, but that was the catalyst. Like saying, as soon as we got that, like saying, it was like an all-in-one, little black and white kind of thing. And we used to live in the same house, Rachel and I'd do my editorial, write it, and then take it downstairs, and she'd kind of use it to kind of for her advertising with this little floppy disk. We take it to the design run. We got this magazine kind of. And we didn't have a clue, it was funny because that first issue, it was like 12 pages, A5, black and white, and it was free. We used to kind of give it out afterwards, at clubs. But we had an article that finished, so it started in the back half of the magazine and finished in the front half. That's how green we were. We just didn't have a clue. We just, knew there was people like us that wanted to read about, the music as much as what we did. So, I mean, originally, we only wanted it to reach Bristol in the southwest. Through the club that we did, we used to have this kind of distribution network where we would take our flyers, like Cheltenham and Gloucester, and Swindon, Cardiff, places like that were close to Bristol. And then that was it. That was the extent of our ambitions. We just wanted to be a kind of local Bristol magazine. But it was quite interesting. I mean, distribution has always been really important to me. As soon as that wasn't enough, I've always tried to make knowledge bigger and better, whichever way I can in distribution. Soon I realised that there was record distributors, and if we gave them like an advert in the magazine, they would take a load of magazines off us, and when they were sending out their kind of records to the shops, they would chuck a few magazines in with them, and then obviously the shops would put them out. So pretty soon we had like national and even international kind of distribution. So that's it helped the magazine grow a lot.
Yeah, before you knew it, people were just dreaming to be in your magazine. I said recently to somebody, when asked what one of my greatest achievements in my career has been, it was being featured in your magazine. And
thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you. You've become kind of a checklist, if you will, a checkpoint of your stature in drum and bass. Have you been in Knowledge Mag yet? So yeah, thanks for giving us the platform and connecting artists to the fans, if you will. I gotta ask.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's like I say, the international thing as well. I mean, when we started selling the magazine as well, we had a UK, newsstand distributor. We had a record shop distributor, but like I say, distribution's always important. We had a European distributor, and we had a North American distributor, and we actually had to pay the shipping, especially for the North American one. We had to pay to get the magazines literally shipped. They didn't fly. It was too expensive to fly, but we could, they went on a ship and went to the North America, and that cost us a lot of money, to be honest. And we probably really didn't make that much on those. We probably just broke even, but the reputation of the magazine, increased so much because of that, and people could get it in Canada and America, and that really helped us. And I think it did help the scene grow, especially through the free cover CD. That helped a lot, and people like yourself and other people in the States have, we became like the #1 drum and bass magazine through things like that.
Definitely you did. And not everything is as quantifiable as numbers, like when you can say I spent this and I got that. Sometimes it is the intangibles that you spoke of, where it's the fans that you
completely.
came.
That's the thing. For me, it wasn't about the money. Like I say, I was happy to send those copies to North America and not really kind of make any money on them. That wasn't important. It was more important to spread the word.
I get you. And also the little CDs that you guys used to include. You used to have a CD with every night.
Yeah, the CDs were, that was a secret weapon. Again, we started off as a free magazine, and that was 94, and about 98, I think we'd taken it as far as we could, being a free magazine, and we were like, well, we need to start charging for it. To take the magazine to the next level, we have to start charging. But, how do you start charging for something that you've been giving away for free? Why should people now buy your magazine? I remember going to see Paul Rico at SRD, they're a record distributor, and telling him about our plan and what we wanted to do, and he said, okay, well, we'll distribute it for you, but you got to do a free CD with every issue, and then I've never really thought of that before, and it was a genius, absolute masterstroke. And the thing was, though, I mean, that wasn't really anything new. I remember in magazines, dance music magazines in the UK, had given away like free CDs, but to be honest, you know, they were rubbish. They really were. The quality wasn't very good, but I wanted our cover CDs to be as good as any compilation that was released at that time. You know, so when you got it, and again, that made the magazine actually quite good value, even though, you know, in Canada, America, and anywhere abroad, the magazine was probably quite expensive just because it was an import. The quality of the CD actually made it good value, and that was like that was a secret weapon. That really, obviously, these are days before the internet, before kind of broadband. You know, I would say our probably peak was about 1988 to about 2002, 2003. Like I say, as soon as kind of broadband kind of came in and mixes became readily available on the internet, I think the value kind of maybe kind of dropped off a bit. But, you know, those kind of kind of broadband internet years, like I say, that was, you know, people really found it quite hard to kind of get decent kind of mixes. You know, that it was very, very popular.
I got to ask you this, because you say the magazine starts in '94, which is around the time of the birth of jungle drum and bass.
Yeah.
What would you say the difference and why we have two different names for the same music is, from jungle versus drum and bass?
Well, I mean, I think jungle kind of, for me, is the more of the kind of like the reggae kind of raga kind of side of it, and that's how it kind of started off. You know, really, like I say, that was how I got introduced to it. It was that kind of more kind of raga, and then I think it was the more kind of techno, kind of not quite as kind of reggae kind of version of the kind of music kind of started kind of coming out, and for me, that was more what I would kind of consider drum and bass. I mean, but I use them almost interchangeably sometimes as well. You know, I think more people kind of call it drum and bass now, but for me, I still refer to the jungle. But it seems to be, I think that seems, but it's a bit more the kind of the techno kind of side of it. I think it's kind of more kind of drum and bass, and the more kind of reggae kind of raga side, more kind of jungle. But yeah.
Well, the thing that gets me is that if you listen to drum and bass, you're a junglist, and if you know, and here's my thing. From what I've heard, once again through doing these interviews, is it was a response from the promoters because the clubs weren't booking them with the ruffian aspect. Now, Funky Flirt was blunt enough to say they did it because they didn't want the black people coming, and I was like, wow.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. There was a bit that kind of jungle was more kind of considered black, and drum bass is more kind of considered white. But I don't really like getting into the kind of too much like the kind of racial element, because it has been such a, you know, unique kind of scene that is. I don't think it's not black music, it's not white music, but there is an element of that, and there's truth in that, definitely.
I get you, and I understand the controversy and the polarization it could cause, but yeah, I just think that it's an interesting aspect. Like I say, you don't have to listen to jungle to be a junglist, and I grew up thinking reggae was the jungle. Like I always thought that, you know, Terry T and what's his name, Congo Natty, those were your jungle guys, and then everyone else was drum and bass.
Yeah.
But
I mean, a lot of people didn't really like kind of referring to the music as jungle as well, and I think, you know, there was that side of it as well, and I think the kind of drum bass is kind of, it was almost more kind of an acceptable kind of name for it, you know. Like I say, it certainly kind of could get you into kind of some clubs where maybe it's a bit like jungle, and I don't know, they just, you know, the kind of connotations of it, you know.
Sure.
Definitely.
Well, and here's the thing, I can even empathize and understand that rebuttal, but here's the reason why it was problematic for us over here was we had a jungle culture that hadn't experienced that. So when artists were trying to get, you know, booked over in Canada and saying, don't book me as a jungle artist, book me as a drum and bass artist, our promoters were saying, no, I can't do that because no one will come. They'll say, what's drum and bass? So it took a couple of years, I'd say, of transitioning and rebranding, I guess. But yeah, now that it's just one name. It's jungle drum and bass. What would you say are the biggest changes you've noticed in the scene from the day you started to where we are today?
Well, the technology, I suppose, how people make music. You know, I think back in the day, I remember it was like Atari STs. You know, people were making on, again, very, very basic kind of computers. And now, you know, everything's inside a box. The computers that people use, the programs, like I say, it's become so much more sophisticated as well. It's funny because you do listen to some of these, early tunes, and they're quite kind of rough and ready, and now you listen to it and they're very slick, very sophisticated. But in some ways, the early tunes really had, there was a lot of charm about them, even though they were kind of quite rough and ready. The magazine's a little bit like that as well. I mean, the first few issues of the magazine were like that, but kind of rough and ready, but rough around the edges, and become slowly more kind of sophisticated and slick. But in some ways, those early issues, like I say, they had a bit of kind of charm about them as well. It's quite funny. And again, I suppose how people, the DJs, again, it's vinyl's gone. It was CD decks for a while. Now people kind of turn up in a little kind of, a little USB. The DJs. So that's a huge change as well. And the clubs as well. Again, I think back in the day, they were very, very rough and kind of the clubs. They were, they're a lot more kind of police now. I don't know if you've got this in Canada, but in London, to get into a club now, you need to have like photo ID. It doesn't matter what age you are. Like I was saying, so they scan it and they can put it into a database and check kind of, should you be allowed to, into the club or not. And that's for me. I just don't like that, and a lot of people don't kind of like that as well. And it seems to have changed the culture of clubbing in London, and it's a lot more safer, which is kind of good in some ways. But people kind of do love that kind of underground, kind of grimy kind of danger. That's for me is a big change.
I love it because if somebody ever asked me what I loved about the rave, it wouldn't be how safe I felt. Why do you go to raves? Because it's safe.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be something too dangerous, obviously, but you don't, like I said, you like a certain element of danger. You just don't know what's going to happen. That for me was because I came, like I say, from more of a kind of house kind of background, from Glasgow, and kind of going to some kind of rough and ready kind of like jungle raves, and I was just like, wow, this is a bit, kind of. You didn't know quite what to make of it. You're a little bit on edge in some ways, but you kind of enjoyed it at the same time. It's a hard one to explain.
It is, and I get you. I sit on this schism on both ends. It's like I don't want to be in fear when I'm at a party, but at the same time, the invasive procedures they're going through to ensure my safety is a little much.
Yes,
I get you, and I appreciate it. That was a great answer. I guess, you know what, I know that your 25-year anniversary is coming up and you have something special planned for it. Can you maybe explain to my listeners what's going on?
Yeah, so we're doing a book. Like I say, we've been away for 5 years. It was funny, when we stopped doing the actual magazine 10 years ago, and we kind of soldiered on for 5 years kind of as a website, which, it kind of, for me, kind of fizzled out a little bit, and we weren't true to what we were. We were 15 years as print. And it was our 20th anniversary, and we kind of knocked it on the head. We didn't have any kind of 20th birthday celebrations or anything, which again, 20 years is a huge milestone. So I always felt we kind of like unfinished business. So kind of earlier this year, I was kind of like, 25 years, we've got to do something. I was like, well, no, maybe we should do a magazine. And then I was like, well, no, magazine, no, it's not right. It's a book. A book would be amazing. So yeah, we're going. Do a book. It's going to be like 10-inch kind of square, nice cloth cover, debossed, kind of like knowledge K, 150 pages. So it's going to be like the biggest, best one that we've ever done. We're getting. It's not going to be like a magazine as well. And the format, it's going to be more kind of like longer, kind of more kind of general kind of features. They were always my favourites. I mean, I liked a lot of the artist interviews, but the general kind of features on a kind of topic of some sort, they're always my favourites. So I would say the majority of content is going to be new. We could have easily done an issue where we just kind of compiled a lot of the old stuff, but that didn't seem right. So I've got a lot of the old writers back on board, got some new guys, and it's going to be, like I say, the majority, 2/3 or 3/4 is probably going to be all new content. Be a few old things in there, but not many. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be special. That's the whole thing. And I mean, we announced that just at the start of July, and you know, we've had a great response so far. I mean, we've sold over 200 copies on pre-order already, which is great. You know, it's surpassed my expectations. I wasn't sure, you know, whether people wanted it or not, but that's the great thing about doing it on pre-sale. You know, you can see the demands there. So yeah, fantastic. You know, got me really excited.
Well, okay, sorry. When can we expect this, and where can we go to get it?
Okay, so I mean, you can pre-order it now. It's not out until December, so it is a little while away. But if you pre-order it now, what we're doing is you can get your name in the credits. We're going to have a page, and we're going to have, like, everybody that buys a book on pre-order, we're going to get the name in the book. So it's nice. I mean, this is going to be a bit of drum and bass history. So yeah, if you want your name in the book, if that's something that appeals to you, go to kmag.co.uk, and you'll be able to see a link to buy the book there.
I gotta ask, as you're another person who's got two names for the same thing, in that you're Knowledge Magazine as well as Kmag. Where did that come from?
Yes, that's right. Well, you know, it's funny because we were always Knowledge Magazine, and then we actually we changed the logo. The logo for me was like the knowledge going across the top, and it took up too much room. Like I say, we were actually kind of having covers designed. You know, sometimes it just took up too much room. So I was like, you know what? Let's change it. I'm going to have a K for the logo, the first letter. So it would take up less room. It would just be this little kind of K in the top left-hand corner. And no intention, like I say, but since we changed the logo and it was a K, people kind of started referring to it as Kmag. So yeah, it's kind of stuck. And now, again, a bit like Jungle Drum and Bass, we're Knowledge Magazine, and we're Kmag. People use them kind of interchangeably.
That's awesome. I love that when something like that just naturally occurs. That's really cool. All right, I got two final fun questions for you, so please just have fun with these ones. Are you familiar with the monument in the United States called Mount Rushmore?
I am indeed, yes. 4 former presidents, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so my question to you is, if you could create a Mount Rushmore for our jungle industry, which 4 faces would you put up?
Okay. Well, Randall's got to be on there, hasn't he? Randall, too hot to handle, or a DJ. I love that about Randall because he's not really a producer. He does produce, but he's a DJ. You know, I mean, the DJ's DJ. He's got to be up there. Who else? God, Andy C's got to be up there, hasn't he? You know, I mean, again, another great DJ. I mean, an obvious choice, but I mean, you don't win so many awards, and he's done so much for the scene as well. Got to have Andy there. Who else? Well, that's a tough question. Put me on the spot. Caliber. Yeah, like I say, let's have Caliber on there. Again, I mean, I think he's more of a producer, you know. Again, well, he's a great DJ, to be honest, but I mean, I love, he's so consistent. He's been going for years. Like some of the work he's done with, you know, Marcus Intellect and SD Files when he was doing Mystical as well. You know, he's phenomenal. That leaves me one more.
Well, you think I will say that the episode, or sorry, the edition of your magazine that I happened to be featured in, Caliber was on the cover, and I'm pretty sure it was your second last printed edition. It was in December of 2005, I believe. Mm-hmm. Does that match dates right? Like when you guys stopped printing?
No, 2009 was our last issue. So, like I say, so yeah, we did have Caliber on a couple of times. So
gotcha.
Maybe.
So then I'm wrong in saying that.
Yeah, it's okay. Final one, like I say, I think in this day and age as well, we've got to have a bit more female representation, haven't we? We can't just have just talk about the men. Let's have Storm on there. Again, you know, another DJ. Sometimes I think it's hard, you know, somebody who's really made a name for himself just purely through DJing. I think that's really important. And Storm's done so much for the scene. as well. So yeah, there you go. So we'll have Storm on there as well.
That's a great 4. I have to say, Storm is the first time I've heard, but the other 3 I have definitely heard many times, but I love all 4 of those names.
Yeah.
All right, if you could put 5 items in a vault that would encapsulate our rave culture, so in a couple thousand years, someone's going to dig this thing up and we want them to know what the rave once was, what 5 items would you put in that vault?
Okay, so, I mean, for me, back in the day, the tape packs were so important. I mean, we're talking like sort of mid to 90s. We used to do Roughneck Ting, you know, we were probably losing quite a lot of money on our events. Not a lot of money, a little bit of money, but like, you know, the tape pack, that again, that helps spread the culture. So we've got to have a tape pack in there of some sort. Come on, I've got to be. We've got to put a copy of Knowledge in there as well.
Yeah, you have to throw. Now I got to ask, with that copy of Knowledge, is there a specific copy that you would throw in, one that stands out of all the rest that you made?
Maybe we did a couple of really special ones. I think maybe the 10th anniversary issue. That was in 2004. That was a really good year. I was very proud of that issue. Again, that was similar to the book that we're doing at the moment. That was again a lot more kind of general kind of features. You know, we had quite a lot of them in there. So yeah, I think the 10th anniversary issue. Let's put that in there.
Okay.
So
keep in mind, this vault is huge. You can put whole cities, whole clubs. You can put countries. You don't have to think.
Okay, right. Huge. Really, I'm thinking small. You know, I mean, I'm thinking sort of, you know, something you can kind of bury in the back garden. So, wow.
I'm even going to let you use your invisible powers while you pack this vault.
Yeah. Let's put in AWOL, the Paradise Club. Like I say, I think I mentioned that one as well. That was, you know, such a special club. You know, we used to travel down from Bristol to go to there, and it was, you know, the residents was Mickey Finn, Darren J, Dr. Escashi, Randall, and Darren J. Hard to say, like the same. But so they did 5 residents, and they all played like 2-hour slots. Like I say, and you know, it was the same 5 guys the whole time. They just mixed the order about, and they all, like I say, all played 2 hours. And you know, again, like I said, that was a kind of quite a kind of club with an edge that, you know, that didn't really run for that long. Like I said, at the Paradise Club, it was only ran for a few years, but you know, that was, you know, definitely that was an important club for me when I was first got introduced to kind of going to jungle. So let's put that in there.
Well, there was also one thing I want to say about that place. I think it was also a birthplace for a lot of networking that later bred our culture today. So
definitely, yeah, that's right. That's always been important within the scene. So yeah, definitely. I mean, one thing. What else can we put in there? Got to be one of my foreign trips. Like I say, they were always amazing. It was funny because I was just thinking that, you know, again, the magazine, when it started growing, that was one of the things that was very important, was all the foreign trips. I didn't DJ, I've never DJed, so it was, doing the magazine was a way for me to travel the world. And funnily enough, Canada, Toronto was our first ever foreign trip. Chris McKee, like I say, he knew Rachel, like I say, and he was kind of DJing at the time, and we came over to Toronto. So let's put that on, like I say, the first trip, because that was we were treated really well when we came to Canada. Like this was 1998, and Jungle Syndicate guys. I remember meeting them, Sniper, and all that crew. And that was fun. Like I say, and that started off, like I say, a great sequence for us. You know, we went to Miami, and we went to like Iceland, Puerto Rico. I loved that kind of 98 to 2002. They're probably like the golden years of our travelling, and that was great fun. So, like I say, but yeah, Toronto kicked it off. So it seems to speak to you guys from Canada. We'll put that in there. Which leaves me one more. let's put Roughneck Ting in there as well. Like I was saying, that was the club that I did, and that kind of was the foundation. You know, I moved to Bristol. My friend Mark Elect from Coaching, he was setting up with Daisy and Rachel, and you know, that was the magazine wouldn't have get set up if it wasn't for that club. So that was instrumental, and it never really got its dues as well. You know, kind of in Bristol at the time, you know, Ronnie Size represent Full Cycle. Everybody kind of knew about that, but you know, we were the #1 club in the 90s, and it's great to see Daisy still running it. We kind of, again, that stopped for a while, but Daisy brought it back just over 5 years ago, and as a record label. We was a record label for a while, back in the 90s as well. But yeah, she's running it now, and it's going great guns. So I mean, that's always been very important. So yeah.
Awesome. That was a great 5, and we're going to close the vault up, and nobody's going to be seeing this for at least another 20,000 years. So I hope when they do, they are impressed with what we had once done.
Yep.
You know what? We're going to wrap up here, but I want to talk to you a little bit. So stay on the phone with me. I'm just going to sign off to the listeners, okay?
Okay.
All right, that was him, Colin Stevens, Knowledge Mag, Kmag, their 25-year anniversary, the pre-sale book. I'll have the link below, so please get on that. As always, I hope you enjoyed listening as much as I enjoyed chatting. Until next time, peace out.